I'm sitting at a fancy restaurant, surrounded by family, balloons, and birthday cake, but my heart's pounding. My hands are shaking. I'm hiding a secret so dark, it's eating me alive. I'm 17, the oldest of 3 siblings, staring across the table at my dad, the man who's made our lives a nightmare. He thinks he's untouchable, hiding his cruelty behind a fake smile. But tonight is his birthday, and I'm about to make it his worst day ever. Stick around, because this story of betrayal, courage, and justice will leave you speechless. Have you ever wanted to stand up to someone who hurt you, to make them feel the weight of their actions? If that's you, hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up for a revenge story that'll hit you right in the feels. This is about a teenage girl who took a stand against her abusive father in front of his entire family. It's raw, real, and one of the most satisfying payoffs you'll hear. Let's dive in. Picture a small, cluttered house in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Faded paint, creaky front porch. Inside, it's chaos. My name's Lily, not my real name, but it'll do. I'm 17, the oldest of 3. My sister Mia, 14, always has her nose in a book, escaping reality. My brother Jake, 10, still thinks dad's temper is just how dads are. Our mom, Sarah, is the glue holding us together, but she's crumbling. Her eyes are always red, her shoulders slumped, like she's carrying the world. Then there's Dad, let's call him Greg. To the outside world, he's charming, a hard-working guy with a quick laugh. Behind closed doors, he's a monster. Greg's been abusing us for years. Not just with his fists, though those left bruises on my arms, a split lip for Mom. It's the psychological torment that cuts deepest. He'd scream for hours, his voice booming, calling us worthless, threatening to hurt us worse if we didn't obey. When I was 13, he stood on a chair in the living room, a rope tied to the ceiling fan, yelling that he'd end it all because of me. His eyes were wild, spit flying as he blamed me for his misery. I stood there, frozen, my heart hammering so hard I thought it'd burst. I didn't care if he died. I was terrified he'd ruin my life first. He cheated on Mom, too. Drained her bank account to buy drinks and gifts for his girlfriend, a woman he flaunted without shame. Mom would cry herself to sleep, thinking we couldn't hear her through the thin walls. He'd threatened to hurt her if she left, and she believed him. We all did. He was unpredictable, a storm that could turn deadly without warning. I tried to fight back. Once, I called the police after he threw a glass at Mom, shattering it against the wall. They came, gave him a warning, and left. That night, he cornered me in my room, his face inches from mine, his breath sour with whiskey. "You think you can snitch on me?" he hissed. "You'll regret it." I didn't sleep for weeks, jumping at every creak, haunted by nightmares of him looming over me. I started self-harming, not because I wanted to die, but because physical pain was easier than the chaos in my head. I hid the cuts under long sleeves, even in summer. I had to stay strong for Mia and Jake, shielding them from the worst. But it was exhausting, juggling school, finals, and the fear that today might be the day he snapped for good. Greg wasn't always bad. That's what made it so hard. He'd have moments of kindness, buying us ice cream, cracking jokes like a normal dad. But it was a trap. The second we let our guard down, he'd flip. One minute, he's laughing, the next, he's slamming his fist on the table because Jake spilled juice. His family, his parents, his siblings, saw only the good side. To them, he was Greg, the golden boy. They'd gush about how proud they were, oblivious to the truth. That hypocrisy drove me crazy. He'd put on this perfect act at family gatherings, all smiles and hugs, while I'd sit there, my stomach churning, knowing what he'd do when we got home. I wanted to scream, to tear down his mask, but I was scared. What if they didn't believe me? What if it made things worse? The week before his birthday, I hit my breaking point. I was done with the lies, the fear, the pretending. I was studying for finals, barely sleeping, haunted by flashbacks of that rope, his voice blaming me. I looked at Mia, her eyes dull from years of this, and Jake, starting to flinch when Dad raised his voice. I couldn't let them grow up like this. I couldn't let Mom waste away. Something had to change. His birthday dinner was coming up, a big family affair at a fancy Italian restaurant. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, the whole crew. Greg loved these events, basking in his family's praise. It hit me like a lightning bolt, this was my chance. He cared so much about what his family thought. If I could expose him in front of them, he'd feel the shame he'd forced on us for years. It was risky, but I was past caring. I wanted him to hurt. The night of the dinner, I was a wreck. My hands trembled as I pulled on my best navy blue dress, one Mom bought for special occasions. The restaurant was warm and bustling, clinking glasses, the smell of garlic bread in the air. We were seated at a long table, balloons tied to Greg's chair, a birthday banner overhead. His parents, Carol and Tom, beamed at him. His siblings, Lisa and Mark, cracked jokes. Mom sat quietly, her smile forced. Mia and Jake fidgeted, sensing something was coming. I waited, my heart pounding. Greg was in his element, charming everyone, his laughter loud and fake. I felt sick, but I kept my cool, nodding along, playing the dutiful daughter. Halfway through dinner, he excused himself to the bathroom. This was it. My stomach twisted, but I took a deep breath and leaned forward, my voice casual but loud enough for everyone to hear. You know, that story reminds me of the time Dad got so mad he threw a chair at Mom. The table went silent. Carol's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Tom's brow furrowed. Lisa looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I kept going, my tone light, like I was sharing a funny anecdote. Oh, didn't he tell you? He's got a temper. Last month, he gave me a black eye because I forgot to do the dishes. Mom's face paled. Mia stared at her plate, her knuckles white around her fork. Jake's eyes widened, but he stayed quiet. I could feel the tension building, like a storm about to break. Lily, what are you talking about? Mark asked, his voice sharp. I shrugged, forcing a smile. Just saying, he's not the guy you think he is. Like when he cheated on Mom and spent her money on his girlfriend's fancy dinners. The words hung in the air. Carol's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes glistening. Tom's jaw tightened. I kept my eyes on my plate, my heart racing, but inside, I was screaming with adrenaline. I'd done it. There was no going back. Greg came back from the bathroom, all smiles, oblivious to the bomb I'd dropped. He sat down, reached for his wine glass, and froze. The table was dead silent, every eye on him. Carol's cheeks were wet with tears. Tom's face was stone. Lisa looked like she'd been slapped. What's going on? Greg asked, his voice too loud, his smile faltering. No one answered. The silence was heavier than any scream. I could see panic flicker in his eyes as he looked from face to face. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what. Greg, Tom said, his voice low and trembling. Is there something you need to tell us? Greg's face went white. What? What are you talking about? I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. I told them, Dad. About the hitting. The cheating. The threats. His eyes locked onto mine, and for a second, I saw rage. But then he laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. She's kidding. You know how kids are, making stuff up. Am I? I shot back, my voice steady. What about the time you threatened to hurt Mom if she left you? Or when you spent her money on your girlfriend? The table erupted. Lisa slammed her hand down, her voice shaking. Is this true, Greg? Carol was crying openly, her shoulders shaking. Tom stood up, his chair scraping the floor. You'd better start talking, son. Greg's mask cracked. His hands clenched into fists, his face red. This is ridiculous. She's lying. But no one believed him. The doubt in their eyes was unmistakable. I felt a rush of triumph, like a weight lifting off my chest. For years, he'd controlled us with fear, made us feel powerless. Now he was the one squirming, exposed, his perfect image shattered. The rest of the dinner was a blur. His family peppered him with questions, their voices rising. Mom finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm, confirming what I'd said. Greg stormed out before dessert, leaving us to finish the meal in tense silence. I didn't care. I'd done what I set out to do. When we got home, Greg was furious. He cornered me, yelling, but I stood my ground. For the first time, I wasn't scared. His family knew the truth, and he couldn't hide anymore. Over the next few weeks, things changed. His parents stopped inviting him to family events. Lisa and Mark reached out to Mom, offering support. It wasn't perfect, justice rarely is, but it was a start. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. Was it cruel to ruin his birthday? Maybe. But after years of his cruelty, it felt like karma. Sometimes, you have to fight fire with fire, especially when it's the only way to protect the people you love. I'm still healing, and so are Mom, Mia, and Jake. But that night, I took back a piece of our power. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Subscribe for more stories that'll keep you glued to your screen, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.